Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Today I'm going to be sharing one of my newest favorite recipes, balsamic braised beef steaks. Amazing, so good, so easy, and a great way to batch cook as well. The leftovers are amazing. But before we get started, for those of you who are new to my community and not familiar with who I am, my name is Jessica Melnick. I am a registered holistic nutritionist, the founder of the Anti-Arthritis Method, the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions Group, and I help both women and men with various forms of arthritis get back to living life that they, in a way they choose to, not the way that they have to. So let's get started. Today I am going to be sharing my balsamic braised beef recipe, and I'm going to be talking to you. Oh, there's my kitty. I'm going to be talking to you about the nutrition behind grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised beef and why it is a wonderful choice to have and how it compares to conventionally raised beef. So let's get into this. So grass-fed beef. So the major difference between grass-fed beef and grain-fed beef is the diet of the cows, obviously. So the grass-fed beef eats mostly grass, while the conventionally raised beef eats mostly grain or in a natural diet that's based on corn and soy. Now, the standard definition for grass-fed claim that requires a continuous access to pasture and prevents animals from being fed grain or grain-based products. So cows are actually meant to spend their lives peacefully grazing on grass. Sorry, guys. Mr. Pants, you're in the way. All right. Sorry, guys. I have a very demanding cat. He's old and he likes to be the center of attention. And sometimes that's at really inconvenient times. So, as I was saying, cows are meant to spend their lives peacefully grazing on grass in wide open pastures, but most of them today are raised in confined animal feeding operations or concentrated animal feeding operations known as CAFO. So, in these large facilities, not only are the cows confined and overcrowded, but they also don't eat what's best for them. So, they're eating what makes them the fattest and also which yields the most money. So they are purposely fattened up as quickly as possible so that they can get more money on the market per pound. And so that's the difference. So the really unfortunate thing though about these cows that are conventionally raised is that they get sick, which is really commonly known to happen when they are not living in ideal conditions. So when they are confided and crowded into smaller living settings that are not, freely roaming on pastures, they get sick because disease can spread really easily in that type of an environment. So that's when they're given hormones and antibiotics. So a grain-fed feedlot cow can grow to be big enough for slaughter up to a year faster than a cow that's only being fed grass, being and foraging for food and hay in a pasture. So for grass-fed beef producers, they are in competition with conventional raised cattle because they have to spend more time raising their cattle and they have higher operating costs. And there are some people who are hesitant to make the switch from eating grain-fed beef to grass-fed beef because of concerns about the differences in taste and texture of the meat. And when we look at the diet of livestock, it actually really impacts the nutritional composition of the meat. So I had no idea years ago that this was even a thing. But when cattle are consuming when they're consuming grass, their meat is actually going to have more nutrients, especially healthy fats, than having grain in their diet. So grass-fed animals have a much greater concentration of omega-3 fatty acids in their meat, and grass-fed beef can contain up to 5 times more omega-3s than grain-fed beef. So that is huge, you guys. Most of us, at least I used to think that the only way I could get omega-3 fatty acids, which are super, super important for reducing inflammation if you have arthritis. Super important for heart health and brain health as well. I used to think the only way you could get that was through fatty fish or through things like flax seeds or walnuts. But actually, grass fed beef is a very high concentration of omega-3 fatty acids. And it also contains twice as much conjugated linoleic acid than conventionally raised beef. So if you haven't heard of conjugated linoleic acid yet, it's otherwise known as CLA. It's actually a really powerful polyunsaturated fatty acid that we must obtain from our diets from animal sources alone. And it's been shown to fight cancer, discourage weight gain, and build muscle. And high quality grass fed beef and butter from healthy grass fed cows or other animals are the top sources of CLA. And CLA has also been shown in numerous animal studies since 1994 to promote health and fight other diseases. So, studies on CLA show their ability to prevent and treat cancer as well as obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases. And CLA sources have proved their ability as cancer fighting foods in multiple animal studies as well. So, in 2000, a Finnish study published in the journal Nutrition and Cancer demonstrated that there may also be anti-carcinogenic effects of CLA for humans. And in this study, women who had the highest levels of CLA in their diets had a lower risk of breast cancer than those with the lowest levels of CLA. And the anti-cancer research for CLA in humans will hopefully continue because it looks really promising so far. So very exciting. So CLA can also reduce heart attack risk and disease heart disease risk and heart attack risk. So the main reasons why grass-fed beef can benefit heart health include that they have less overall fat and unhealthy fat. They have lower levels of dietary cholesterol, higher levels of heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids, and more CLA, which we discussed, and more heart disease-fighting antioxidant vitamins like vitamin E. So really, really important. And getting healthy fats in your diet is also really important to keep your blood sugar at a healthy level. So studies have found that about 37% of the patients that were treated with CLA had improvements in insulin sensitivity. So if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, or you're struggling to keep your blood sugar stable, having CLA in your diet is really amazing in order to keep your blood sugar stable and also your insulin sensitivity up there as well. And let's also look at the whole thing when it comes to antibiotics. So like I had mentioned earlier, conventionally raised cattle tends to get sick in those types of conditions because they are confined, they are crowded. It's not a good living situation for them. And so therefore, it's really common for them to get sick. So actually 80% of antibiotics sold in the US goes to livestock like cows. Can you believe that? 80%. So when our meat is given antibiotics, that is when we eat that meat, we are actually getting that those antibiotics as well. So this is really unfortunate because that creates antibiotic resistance in humans when we are consuming meat that contains antibiotics. So not a good thing. Another thing to know as well, that when we feed cattle grain, it makes their intestinal tracts a lot more acidic, and this can promote the growth of bacteria like E. coli, which can actually kill someone who eats undercooked beef like a rare hamburger. So antibiotic and hormone use in beef is significantly less likely with grass-fed versus grain-fed. And if meat is organic and grass-fed, then the animal was not given antibiotics or hormones because organic cattle are fed organic feed and are not given antibiotics or hormones. For grass-fed cattle, antibiotics are typically not given, which is very different from the consistent and common use of antibiotics on feedlot grain-fed cows. So it is a much safer option to consume grass-fed meat, as it is much, much less likely to contain bacteria such as E. coli. So just some things that are really, really good to know. And lastly, and I think this is also important too, I know a lot of us care about our environment, And I know there has been a lot of misinformation about how eating animals actually contributing to destroying the ozone layer because of greenhouse gases, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that a lot of us really want to have a healthy diet. We want to eat to support our health, to manage our conditions and our illnesses, but we also don't want the environment to suffer. So, grass fed beef is better for your health than grain fed beef, but it's also much better for the environment. So, when it comes to grass fed beef, there is some very good news. Research now shows that traditional grass fed beef production and finishing actually benefits the environment by decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing the biodiversity of pasture ecosystems, and improving the quality of runoff water from well managed pastures. So, overall, grass fed beef has actually been shown to reduce the carbon footprint and help the environment rather than hurt it. So, when we look back at a lot of traditional farming methods, they were actually really supportive of the environment. And they also were, well, and not just in terms of greenhouse gases, but also in terms of soil quality. When we do things like monocropping, or only have cattle on a piece of land, we can run into a lot of issues in terms of the soil quality and the runoff and what happens there. So when we are rotating crops and we have a combination of animals and other types of edible crops on that land, the environment, that ecosystem it works very synergistically, and that is the way things are supposed to be farmed to support the environment and the soil quality as well. So I'm not going to get into all the details of that today, but I just really wanted to share with you guys how beneficial grass-fed beef is for you nutritionally, and how that can support your arthritis and prevent other possible health conditions as well. And I'm going to post the link for this recipe below for you guys. It is so delicious. It's super easy to make and super tasty, very joint friendly. And I also think really family friendly. I think it would be a hard one not to enjoy. So I hope you guys got something out of this chat today. Let me know if you have any questions, and you can comment below. And I will see you guys next week with Casey. We'll be back to talk about something arthritis and autoimmune. So have a great weekend, you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.